She cared for a dying wolf for weeks, until he opened his eyes and he said, "You're my fated mate. You're my fated mate." For words from a dying wolf that shattered my entire world. Because I've been rejected, exiled, told I was worthless. So either he's delusional, or the pack that destroyed me has been hiding something catastrophic. 3 days later, they came to kill us both. That's when I learned what I really am, and why they wanted me gone. Hey, beautiful soul. You found us, and we're so glad you're here. This is where broken girls become queens, where underdogs rise, and where love changes everything. If you've ever felt like you weren't enough, these stories are for you. Subscribe to join the pack. Like if you're feeling it. Comment your thoughts. We love hearing from you. You're not just a viewer. You're family now. Welcome home. Now let's get into the story. The first time I found him, he was dying. A massive shape sprawled across the frost-locked earth, where Elina Woods meets the edge of my exile. Snow had been falling for 3 nights straight, blanketing the world in a silence so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. The wind carried his scent before I saw him, iron and smoke, wolf and something else. Something ancient. I should have turned back. That's what any rational wolf would have done. But rationality had abandoned me the day my pack declared me traitor, the day they carved the rejection mark into my shoulder and drove me beyond the boundary stones with stones and spit and words sharper than claws. "Mother Moon," I whispered, my breath clouding white in the frozen air. He was beautiful. Even broken, even bleeding, he was the kind of wolf legends were built around. Midnight black formatted with ice and blood, body too still except for the faint rise and fall of his ribs. 3 silver arrows jutted from his flank, their shafts buried deep. Silver, the kind that burns from the inside, that poisons the blood and dims the wolf until nothing remains but ash. Steam rose from his wounds into the dawn light, the only proof he hadn't already crossed into the moon goddess's embrace. I knelt in the snow, my worn cloak pooling around me. "Easy," I murmured, though I didn't know if he could hear me. "Easy now." His head lifted an inch, just enough for me to see his eyes, clouded, unfocused, but flickering with desperate awareness. A warning growl rattled in his chest, more reflex than threat. I recognized that sound. I'd made it myself, metaphorically speaking, every time the memories came creeping back. Every time I remembered Sheena's cruel smile and the pack's turnbacks. My grandmother's voice echoed in my mind, soft as falling snow. The broken recognize each other, Lapella, and the broken have the strongest bite. The silver locket she'd given me the night before she died hung cold against my collarbone. Inside was a strand of her silver-white fur and a whispered blessing I'd never quite understood. Mercy is not weakness. It is the fiercest magic. "You can't stay here," I told the wolf, creeping closer on hands and knees. The snow soaked through my threadbare gloves. "And I can't leave you to die." It took me an hour to drag him onto the old tarp I'd hauled from my cabin. He was heavy, heavier than any wolf I'd ever seen, but starvation had carved him hollow. Whatever had brought him to my doorstep, whether betrayal or battle or both, had left him a breath away from the void. His blindness seemed fresh. The glaze over his eyes was wrong, temporary, like silver poisoning. When I grasped the makeshift sled and began pulling, he whimpered, a sound so soft and broken it shattered something inside my chest. "I know," I whispered. "I know it hurts, but I've got you now." The journey back to my cabin was slow, painful. Each jolt over root or stone drew another cry from him, and each cry drew promises from me that I had no right to make. "You'll be safe. You'll heal. I won't let you go." The cabin appeared through the trees like a ghost of my former life, small, crooked, patched with moss and desperation. For 2 years, it had been my sanctuary, my prison. No pack to answer to, no alpha to obey, no one to see the way I sometimes stood at the window and stared south toward the territory that had cast me out. Now I was bringing a dying wolf into my isolation. Madness, perhaps. But as I cleared the rug from the hearth and lined the stones with every blanket I owned, something stirred inside me that I thought had frozen solid the day of my exile. "Hope! This is temporary," I told him, though he was unconscious now, his breathing shallow and uneven. "Just until you're strong enough to go back where you belong." I pulled the first arrow free, and his body convulsed. Blood welled, black in the firelight. I pressed a poultice of yarrow and moonwort against the wound, my hand shaking. The second arrow came easier. The third resisted. When it finally tore free, golden light flickered beneath his skin. Just for a heartbeat. Just long enough for me to see something etched into his flesh, markings that glowed like molten sun before fading back into shadow. I stared, heart thundering. Impossible. High moons didn't bleed in the snow. They didn't collapse on the doorsteps of exiled omegas. They didn't. His breathing hitched. Steadied. I sat back on my heels, exhausted, and pulled my grandmother's locket free. What have I done? I whispered. The wolf slept on. The fire crackled. And somewhere in the distance, a howl rose, searching, hungry wrong. I told myself it was only mercy. I didn't know mercy had teeth. Or destiny. Chapter 2. The Cabin of Ghosts. 3 days passed in a rhythm of blood and broth and whispered confessions. I'd forgotten what it was like to care for someone, to watch the shallow pull of breath and measure time by the stuttering beat of a heart that wasn't mine. The wolf slept fitfully, fever burning through him in waves. I bathed his wounds with melted snow and golden seal tincture, changed the bandages twice a day, dripped water onto his cracked tongue when he was too weak to lift his head. At night I talked to him. "You're stronger today," I murmured on the second evening, stirring a pot of rabbit stew I'd made for myself but couldn't stomach. "Your breathing's deeper." "That's good. That's—" My voice cracked. "That's progress." He didn't respond. Of course he didn't. He was a wolf, not a confidant. But the silence in the cabin had teeth of its own, and I'd learned long ago that speaking into the void was better than drowning in it. "I don't know if you can hear me," I continued, settling onto the floor beside him with my back against the stone hearth. "But if you can, you should know you're safe here. No one comes this far into Elina Woods. No one wants to." I traced the rim of my cup with one finger. "They say it's cursed, that the moon goddess herself wept here after the first betrayal, and her tears poisoned the land." The fire popped. The wolf's ear twitched. "I don't believe in curses," I said softly. "Only choices, and the people who make them." My hand drifted to my shoulder, to the raised scar hidden beneath my tunic. The rejection mark. Sheena had carved it herself while the pack alpha watched, her claws precise and cold as winter stars. "Traitor. Liar. Omega filth. They said I tried to poison the alpha's son," I whispered. The words tasted like ash. "They said I was jealous, vengeful, that I wanted power I hadn't earned." I laughed, bitter and sharp, an omega craving power, as if we're even allowed to want. The wolf's chest rose and fell. Rose and fell. I didn't do it. I told him, told the fire, told the ghosts. But no one believed me. Sheena had witnesses. Evidence. A vial of wolfsbane hidden in my den, my scent all over it. My throat tightened. I was exiled before the sun set. No trial. No mercy. Just gone. I closed my eyes, remembering the walk beyond the boundary stones. The jeers. The stones that struck my back. The way my mother had turned away, unable or unwilling to meet my gaze. "Maybe we're both exiles," I murmured, looking at the wolf. "You from your kind. Me from mine." His eyes moved beneath closed lids. Dreaming, perhaps, or dying slowly despite my efforts. "Don't die," I whispered. "Please." I can't. I couldn't finish. Couldn't admit that his death would confirm what I believed since my exile, that I was cursed, that everything I touched withered. That night I dreamed. The moon goddess stood in a clearing of silver light, her face hidden behind a veil of stars. She didn't speak, but I felt her gaze, heavy, expectant, sad. At her feet lay 2 wolves, one white as frost, one black as the void between stars. "Broken things can still be whole," she seemed to say, though her lips never moved. "If they find the other half of their fracture." I woke with a gasp, my hand pressed to my chest. The cabin was silent except for a sound. I sat up, pulse racing. The wolf's eyes were open. Not the clouded blindness of before, but something clearer. Amber light flickered in their depths, faint as distant stars, and for a heartbeat I could have sworn they focused on me. His mouth opened. A breath escaped, low, rumbling, shaped almost like a word, almost like my name. "No," I whispered, scrambling back. That's impossible. You're fevered, delirious. But the golden light beneath his wounds pulsed once, soft and certain, before fading again into sleep. I sat frozen on the cold floor, my grandmother's locket burning against my skin. For a heartbeat, I thought I heard him speak, but the only sound was the wind. And in the wind, the distant echo of howls drawing closer. Chapter 3: The Stranger's Eyes. By the 5th day, he could lift his head. By the 6th, he ate. I'd hunted a winter hare in the pale hours before dawn, my wolf form lean and half-starved but still capable. When I returned to the cabin and shifted back, frost clinging to my skin, he was awake, watching the door with those strange, shifting eyes. "Hungry?" I asked, breathless from the run and the cold, and the way his gaze tracked my movement, even though he shouldn't be able to see. I roasted the hare over the fire, tearing portions onto a wooden plate. When I knelt beside him, he didn't growl, didn't snap, just watched as I offered the first piece. His tongue was warm against my palm. "There," I murmured, something tight and fragile loosening in my chest. "Not so scary after all, are you?" He huffed, soft, almost amused, and my breath caught. "You understand me." It wasn't a question. I could see it now, the intelligence burning behind the haze. This wasn't just a wolf. This was someone who'd been trapped in this shape, poisoned and broken but still aware. "Who are you?" I whispered. He blinked slowly. Once. Twice. Then turned his head toward the window, where the storm clouds gathered black and heavy on the horizon. I followed his gaze and felt ice slide down my spine. "They're hunting you." Another slow blink. Confirmation. I'd seen the signs over the past days, but ignored them. Tracks in the snow circling too close to the cabin. The scent markers refreshed at the forest edge. And yesterday, the glint of silver in the underbrush. Traps, set with cruel precision. "Who?" I demanded, my voice sharper than intended. "Who wants you dead?" He couldn't answer. Not like this. But something in his eyes, sorrow, rage, betrayal, told me everything. His own pack. "Mother Moon," I breathed. "You're like me. Exiled. Hunted. Alone." For a long moment, we simply looked at each other. Two broken things in a cabin at the edge of the world, bound by nothing except the shared language of betrayal. Then, slowly I reached out. My fingers hovered above his head, trembling. "May I?" He went very still. And then, permission granted in the slight lowering of his ears, he leaned into my touch. His fur was softer than I'd imagined. Still coarse with healing and hardship, but underneath like silk. I stroked the space between his ears, and a sound rumbled through him. Not a growl. A purr. I laughed, startled, delighted, half sobbing. "You're ridiculous." His tail thumped once against the blankets. That night I made a decision. From the wooden chest beneath my cot, I pulled the only thing I'd kept from my old life. A small charm carved from mountain ash, strung on a leather cord. My grandmother had made it for me the year I came of age. "For protection," she'd said. "For the days when you forget you're stronger than you think." I hadn't worn it since my exile. Hadn't been able to bear the weight of memory. But now I knelt beside the wolf and placed it gently on the floor between us. "I don't know what happens next," I told him quietly. "I don't know who you are or why you're here, or if you'll even survive the week. But," I swallowed hard, "but you're not alone. Not anymore." He looked at the charm, then at me, and in the firelight, I saw his eyes clearly for the first time. The white haze had burned away like morning fog. What remained was molten gold, the color of the sun at dawn, of honey and heat and something that made my pulse stutter. His eyes were no longer blind, and when they met mine, something inside me shifted. Like the turning of the moon, like the pull of the tide, like destiny unfurling its claws. Chapter 4: The Awakening. The storm hit on the 7th night. I woke to thunder splitting the sky and rain hammering the cabin roof like fists. The fire had burned low, casting everything in shades of ember and shadow. I stumbled from my cot, disoriented, reaching for the poker to stir the coals, and froze. The wolf was convulsing. "No, no, no." I dropped to my knees beside him, hands hovering uselessly. His body arched, muscles seizing, jaws clamped shut. The golden light-eyed glimpse before now blazed beneath his skin, racing along invisible pathways like lightning through a storm. "What's happening?" I gasped. "What do I?" He threw his head back and screamed. Not a howl. A scream, raw and human and agony-edged. I grabbed his face between my hands, heedless of his teeth, his strength, his thrashing. "Stay with me. Don't you dare leave, do you hear me? Don't you!" Light exploded. I was thrown backward, my shoulders slamming into the wall. Stars burst across my vision. When I could see again, the cabin was dark except for the glow emanating from him. His body was twisting, changing, fur receding into skin, bones cracking and reshaping, the wolf collapsing inward and something else emerging. I'd seen shifts before. Every wolf knew the transformation, but this was different. Violent. Divine. The light flared once more, blinding, and when it faded, a man lay on the blankets. Naked. Shaking. Covered in markings that glowed like trapped starlight. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Could only stare at the impossible made flesh. He was beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. All sharp edges and contained violence, his skin bronzed even in the dim light, his hair black as the wolf's fur and falling across a face that could have been carved by the moon goddess herself. The markings wound around his arms, his chest, his throat, ancient symbols I'd seen only in the oldest stories. "High Moon script." "Mother Moon," I whispered. "You're—" His eyes opened, molten gold, burning, focused directly on me with an intensity that stole my breath. "You," he rasped, his voice like gravel and smoke in the bottom of the ocean. "You're—" He struggled to sit up, failed, collapsed back with a groan. "You're my fated mate." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" I choked out. "That's impossible. I was rejected. I'm mine," he snarled, and the word resonated through the cabin, through my bones, through the hollow space in my chest where the pack bond used to live. Power surged between us. Invisible. Undeniable. A golden thread snapping taut, binding his soul to mine with the inevitability of sunrise. I felt it in my blood, in my wolf, in the rejection mark on my shoulder, which suddenly burned like a brand. "No," I gasped, scrambling backward. "You're mad. It's a trick, or a fever dream, or—" "Lupella!" My name in his mouth was a prayer and a claim, and a truth I wasn't ready to face. "How do you know my name?" I demanded, my back pressed against the wall. "Who are you?" He pushed himself up on trembling arms, the marks on his skin pulsing with his heartbeat. "Lushenolf," he said, each syllable precise despite his weakness. "Alpha of the Northern High Moon Pack. Or I was before," his face twisted. "Before the betrayal. High Moon," I repeated numbly. "The most powerful pack in the territories. The descendants of the first wolves, chosen by the moon goddess herself. And he was claiming I was his mate. "This isn't possible," I whispered. "Omegas don't. We don't get fated mates. We're too low, too. You're not an Omega." I froze. Lushenolf's golden eyes burned into mine. "You were never an Omega, Lapella. You were hidden, suppressed, kept weak so you wouldn't," he gasped, his strength failing. "So you wouldn't find me. I don't understand." "The bond," he gritted out. "Fated mates share power. Destiny. You would have made me unstoppable." His hand pressed against his chest, right over his heart. "So they tried to kill it. Tried to kill you." The cabin spun. My rejection. Sheena's cruelty. The false accusations. "Who?" I demanded. "Who did this?" But before he could answer, his eyes rolled back. The light in his markings flickered and died. He collapsed onto the blankets, unconscious, his breathing ragged but steady. I knelt there in the darkness, my hand pressed to my mouth, my entire world cracking open. The candles on the mantel extinguished as one. Outside, the storm raged. And in the place where the pack bond used to burn, something new took root. Golden. Fierce. Inevitable. I'd spent my life believing rejection was the end. That night, I learned it was the beginning. Chapter 5, The Alpha's Curse. He woke at dawn. I'd kept vigil through the night, feeding the fire and watching the slow rise and fall of his chest. I'd found an old quilt to cover him, though my hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it twice. Every time I got close, the bond hummed, a living thing coiled in my ribs, purring its satisfaction. Mate, mate, mate. My wolf, silent and subdued for 2 years, was suddenly a wildfire in my veins. I hated it, craved it, feared it. When Lushanov's eyes opened, clear and devastating, I was sitting across the room with a knife in my lap. He saw it, smiled faintly. Smart. Don't. My voice came out harder than intended. Don't act like this is normal. Like I should just accept. I'm not asking you to accept anything. He sat up slowly, the quilt pooling at his waist. Every movement was grace and barely leashed power. I'm telling you the truth. Whether you believe it is your choice. Fine. I gripped the knife tighter. Then tell me. All of it. He studied me for a long moment, those golden eyes cataloging every detail. Then he nodded. Was Alpha of the High Moon Pack, he began. For 7 years, I led our people, kept the old ways, honored the moon goddess and her gifts. His jaw tightened. 3 months ago, I started dreaming of you. My breath caught. Every night, he continued quietly. Your scent, your voice, the shape of your soul. He touched his chest. I knew what it meant. The goddess was showing me my fated mate. So I searched. You couldn't have, I said. I've been exiled for 2 years. Hidden. How? Exactly. His eyes flashed. You were hidden. Someone very powerful worked very hard to make sure I'd never find you. He leaned forward. My beta. Vargas. The name meant nothing to me, but the venom in his voice said everything. Vargas wanted to be Alpha, Lushanov said. Wanted my power, my title. But he couldn't challenge me and win, not while I was whole. His hand moved to his side, where the silver arrow wounds had been. So he cursed me. Cursed you how? To shift uncontrollably. To lose myself in the wolf until there's nothing human left. He met my gaze. The curse feeds on isolation, on the absence of the mate bond. Without you, I would have gone feral within weeks. Horror and understanding dawned together. The silver arrows. His hunters. When I got too close to finding you, he tried to finish it. Lushanov's smile was bitter. He almost succeeded. Would have if you hadn't. His voice softened. If you hadn't saved me. I looked away, throat tight. I didn't know. You showed mercy to a dying wolf. Asked nothing in return. He said it like a benediction. Do you know how rare that is? How precious. I'm not precious, I said flatly. I'm a rejected Omega who lives alone in the woods because no one else wanted me. No. The single word cracked like a whip. Lushanov rose, too fast, too fluid, and crossed the cabin in 3 strides. I scrambled up, knife raised, but he stopped just out of reach. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his skin. Close enough that the bond screamed. You were never rejected, Lapella, he said, his voice dropping to something raw and certain. You were stolen. Sheena and Vargas conspired together. Framed you to break your spirit. Exiled you so you'd never discover your true strength. He leaned closer. You weren't rejected. You were hidden for me. That's insane, I whispered, but my hands were shaking. Is it? His gaze dropped to my shoulder, where the rejection mark burned beneath my tunic. Let me see it. No. Lapella. I said no. Silence crashed between us. Then, quietly, the mark is a lie, and I can prove it. Despite every instinct screaming at me to run, I held still as he reached out, slowly, carefully, and touched the edge of my collar. The bond ignited. Gold light blazed where his fingers met my skin, racing down my arm and straight to the rejection scar. I gasped as heat flooded the mark, not burning but rewriting. What are you? Fated marks can't coexist with rejection, Lushanov murmured. If you were truly rejected by the goddess, the bond between us would be impossible. His thumb traced my collarbone. But if the rejection was a lie carved into your flesh by someone who wanted you weak. The scar flared white-hot and then cracked. I cried out, dropping the knife. Lushanov caught me as my knees buckled, his arms solid and sure. The pain lasted only a heartbeat before fading into something else. Relief. Weightlessness. Freedom. When I looked down, the rejection mark was gone. In its place, a faint shimmer, the beginnings of a mate bond sigil. No, I breathed. This can't be real. Lushanov tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. You were never broken, Lapella. You were always mine. Always whole. Always. He swayed suddenly, his strength failing. I caught him, barely, and together we sank to the floor. The curse, he gasped. It's still there. The bond helps, but without the full seal, I can't. He gritted his teeth. Can't hold it back forever. What do you need? I demanded. Tell me how to help. His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. The bond pulsed, golden and warm and right. Time, he whispered. Trust. His eyes searched mine. And when you're ready, a choice. What choice? But his eyes were already closing, exhaustion dragging him under. I held him as he slept, my heart a wild thing in my chest, and whispered the truth I wasn't ready to speak aloud. I'd already chosen. I just didn't know if I was brave enough to claim it. Chapter 6, Shadows of Betrayal. She came on the 8th day. I was gathering firewood when I felt the shift in the air, a prickling awareness that said other. I dropped the kindling and ran back to the cabin, my wolf rising to the surface, but froze at the threshold. An old woman sat beside Lushanov, bone-thin and wrapped in layers of faded wool. She had skin like aged parchment and eyes that were pure white. No iris, no pupil, just milky orbs that turned toward me as I entered. Lapella Moon's car, she said, and her voice was cracked river stones. The rejected one. The hidden Luna. You've made quite the mess, child. I shifted protectively in front of Lushanov, who was still asleep. Who are you? How did you get in? I am Jarek. She smiled, revealing teeth too sharp for a human mouth. The last seer, and I've been trying to reach you for 2 years. My blood turned to ice. Seer. The moon goddess speaks, child. I listen. She tilted her head. Or I did, before you decided to defy every prophecy written in the stars. I didn't defy anything. I've been exiled alone. Exactly. Jarek's blind eyes narrowed. Do you know why Sheena accused you? Why Vargas wanted the high moon alpha broken? I said nothing. Couldn't. Because of this. She gestured between me and Lushanov. The prophecy written the night you were born. When the rejected one finds the cursed king, the old power will wake, and the packs will kneel or burn. That's insane, I whispered. Is it? Jarek leaned forward. You're not an Omega girl. You're the moon goddess's final gift to the wolf clans, a Luna born under the dark moon, marked for the last high alpha. Her smile turned sad. Sheena knew. She's Vargas's cousin. When they learned Lushanov was dreaming of his mate, they found you first. The room spun. The poison accusation, Jarek continued. The false evidence. The rejection mark carved by someone with just enough power to make it stick. She touched her chest. They broke you deliberately. Tried to sever the bond before it could form. But it didn't work. Lushanov's voice rasped from behind me. I spun. He was awake, sitting up, his golden eyes blazing. No, Jarek agreed. Because the bond was written in the stars long before either of you drew breath. You cannot reject what the goddess herself designed. I sank onto the edge of the cot, mind reeling. So everything, my entire life, was just what? A cosmic game. Your pain was real, Jarek said gently. Your exile, your suffering, all of it was real. But it was never deserved. She stood, her joints creaking. And now you have a choice. What choice? Lushanov demanded. Jarek's expression turned grave. The blood moon rises in 3 days. If the bond is not sealed by then, the curse will consume you completely. She looked at me. And if he falls, so do you. Fated mates die together. Ice flooded my veins. 3 days. The bond is incomplete, Jarek said. Acknowledged but not claimed. You must complete the mating ritual beneath the blood moon, or we both die, I finished numbly. Worse, Lushanov said quietly. I go feral, and the first thing I'll kill is you. Silence fell like snow. There's more, Jarek said. Vargas knows the Alpha lives. He's hunting you both, and he won't stop until the bond is destroyed and Lushanov's power is his. How many? Lushanov asked, his voice cold. 15 hunters, led by Sheena. Jarek moved toward the door, her movements unnaturally smooth. They'll reach Elina Woods by nightfall. How do you know all this? I demanded. She paused at the threshold, her blind eyes finding me with unnerving precision. Because I've seen how this ends, child. Every possible path. Her voice softened. And in only one of them do you survive. Which one? The one where you stop running from your power. She stepped into the morning light. The moon goddess didn't make you weak, Lapella. She made you hidden. There's a difference. And then she was gone, simply vanished, as if she'd never been. I stood frozen until Lushanov's hand found mine. 3 days, he said quietly. 3 days, I repeated. We both knew what that meant. I had 3 days to decide if I was brave enough to claim the bond, or if I'd let fear destroy us both. That night, I sat by the fire while Lushanov rested. My mind churned through memories. Sheena's smile, my mother's turn back, the pack's jeers. All of it orchestrated. All of it lies. But underneath the rage was something else. Relief. I wasn't broken. Never had been. Lapella! I looked up. Lushanov stood in the doorway, firelight turning his skin to bronze. The mate bond hummed, warm and certain. I won't force this, he said quietly. If you want to run, I'll give you what time I have left. You don't owe me. Stop. I stood cross to him and pressed my palm against his chest. His heart thundered beneath my touch. I spent 2 years believing I was worthless, I said, that I deserved every bit of suffering I endured. I met his burning gaze. I won't spend another day living in that lie. His hand covered mine. What are you saying? I'm saying, I took a shaking breath. I'm saying the hunt has begun, and I'm tired of being prey. Something fierce and wild flashed in his eyes. Then let's give them a reason to fear the moon, he murmured. Outside, the first howl rose. Distant. Hungry. Close enough to matter. Lushanov's eyes narrowed. They've found us. I smiled, sharp and cold and ready. Good. Chapter 7. The Hunt Through Elina Woods. We ran at midnight. Lushanov's wolf was midnight in power, twice the size of mine, his fur still marked with healing scars. I was smaller, leaner, built for speed and survival, not strength. But when we moved together through the trees, something clicked into place. The bond hummed between us, a golden thread that let me feel his heartbeat, his focus, the cold calculation of a born alpha. And he could feel me. Left, his voice whispered through the bond. Not words, but intent. I banked left without thinking, just as silver jaws snapped shut where I'd been. A hunter. One of Vargas's. Lushanov was on him before the wolf could recover, his teeth finding the throat with brutal efficiency. Blood steamed in the snow. 1 down. 14 left, I thought, and felt his grim agreement through the bond. We ran. The forest became a blur of shadow and moonlight. Behind us, Hal split the night, coordinated, relentless. They were herding us north, toward the frozen lake, trying to trap us against the ice. They know the territory, I sent through the bond. So do you, Lushanov responded. Lead. I'd spent 2 years in these woods. Every den, every frozen stream, every hidden path was carved into my memory. I veered east, leaping over deadfall, my paws finding purchase on ice-slick stone. Lushanov followed like my shadow, his presence a warm weight against my consciousness. Another hunter burst from the underbrush. I twisted midair, claws raking across his muzzle. He yelped and fell back, just as 3 more surrounded us. Too many, I thought. Never, Lushanov snarled. He shifted mid-stride. 1 moment, wolf. The next, a man wreathed in golden light, his hands crackling with power I'd only seen in legends. He slammed his palm against the earth, and the ground erupted. Roots shot up like spears, tangling the hunters, pinning them to the frozen ground. They thrashed and howled, but the forest itself held them fast. Run! Lushanov roared. I didn't argue. We ran until my lungs burned and my paws bled. Ran until the howls faded behind us and the woods grew silent and strange. When we finally stopped, collapsing into a hollow beneath an ancient oak, I was shaking. Lushanov shifted back to human, his breathing ragged. The marks on his skin pulsed erratically. The curse, I said, shifting as well. Using that much power. I know. He grimaced. It's accelerating. I can feel it eating at the edges. I pressed my hand to his chest, feeling the erratic thunder of his heart. How long? A day. Maybe 2. His hand covered mine. We need to reach the old temple before the blood moon rises. Temple! In the heart of Elina woods, where the first wolves made their pact with the goddess. His eyes burned. It's the only place strong enough to anchor the bond. Before I could respond, a new scent hit the wind. Familiar. Hateful. Sheena. She emerged from the trees in human form, flanked by 6 wolves. Her beauty was cold and sharp, her smile a blade. "Hello, little Omega," she purred. "Did you miss me?" I stood slowly, positioning myself between her and Lushanov. "Sheena, you've caused quite the mess." She circled us, her wolves matching her movements. 2 years I spent making sure you stayed broken and hidden. And then you just had to play hero. Her eyes flicked to Lushanov. "Hello, Alpha. Vargas sends his regards. Tell Vargas," Lushanov said quietly, "that I'm going to tear out his throat." Sheena laughed. "You're dying, Alpha. The curse is eating you alive. Even if you reach the temple, even if you complete the bond." Her gaze shifted to me, venomous. "She's too weak to anchor you. An Omega mating a high moon. You'll both burn." "She's not an Omega," Lushanov snarled. "No." Sheena's smile widened. "Then what is she?" I felt the bond pulse, felt Lushanov's certainty flowing through it like sunlight. "Show her," he urged. "Show her what you are." I didn't know what he meant. Didn't know what I was supposed to. The bond surged. Power flooded through me, golden, ancient, vast. My skin began to glow with the same markings that covered Lushanov, symbols of the first wolves blazing to life. Sheena's smile faltered. "I'm the hidden Luna," I said, and my voice echoed with something beyond me. Something holy. The goddess's final gift. "And you." I stepped forward, and her wolves backed away, whimpering. "You are nothing." Sheena's face twisted with rage. "Kill them." Her wolves attacked. But the bond was a wildfire now, connecting me to Lushanov in ways I couldn't explain. I moved, and he moved with me. Perfect synchronization, 2 halves of a whole. His power flowed through me. My speed guided him. We were devastating. In moments, it was over. Sheena stood alone, her wolves scattered or dead, her face pale. "This isn't over," she hissed. "No," I agreed. "It's not." I let her run. Let her carry the message back to Vargas. When the woods were silent again, I turned to Lushanov. He was watching me with something like awe. "You felt it," he said quietly. "The bond. The power. I felt." I touched my chest, where the marks still glowed faintly. I felt whole. He pulled me close, his forehead against mine. "The temple is a day's run north. We need to move. What happens there? We complete the bond." His voice was rough. "Or we die trying." I kissed him then, quick and fierce and desperate. "Then let's not die." We ran north into the dawn. And behind us, I could feel them gathering. Vargas's final hunt. The one that would end with blood and moonlight, and a choice I still wasn't sure I was ready to make. But I would be, I promised myself. I had to be. Chapter 8, Blood Moon Rising. The temple was older than memory. Stone pillars wrapped in ice and moss, arranged in a perfect circle beneath a canopy of ancient pines. At the center, an altar carved with the same symbols that marked Lushanov's skin. The same symbols that had blazed on mine when I channeled the bond. We reached it as the sun set on the 3rd day. Lushanov collapsed against one of the pillars, his breathing labored. The curse was winning. I could see it in the way his hands shook, the way gold and shadow warred beneath his skin. "How long?" I asked quietly. "An hour. Maybe less." He looked up at the sky, where the first hint of red was bleeding through the twilight. "The blood moon will rise soon." I knelt beside him, taking his face in my hands. "Tell me what to do." "The ritual requires blood, intention, and acceptance." His eyes met mine. "You have to choose this, Lapella. Choose the bond. Choose me. No fate, no prophecy, just your choice. And if I do, then we seal the bond completely. Our souls merge. Our power becomes one." He touched my cheek. "You'll be Luna of the High Moon Pack. My mate. My equal in all things. And the curse. Broken. The bond will anchor me." His voice dropped. "But it will tie you to me forever. If I die, you die. If I fall, you fall. There's no escape once it's done. I should have been terrified. Should have run. Instead, I felt calm settle over me like snow. I spent 2 years alone, I said quietly. 2 years believing I was worthless, broken, less than nothing. I pressed my forehead to his. I'm not going back to that darkness. Not when I've finally found the light. Lupella! I choose you, I said. I choose the bond. I choose. A howl shattered the night. We both spun toward the trees. Vargas emerged first. A massive silver wolf, his eyes burning with rage and madness. Behind him came at least 20 wolves, his entire hunting pack. No, I breathed. Vargas shifted to human form. He was tall, brutal, with scars crisscrossing his chest and a smile that promised violence. Hello, cousin, he said to Lushenolf. I see you're dying. Good. Lushenolf rose slowly, his body trembling with the effort. Vargas, this is between us. Let her go. Let her go. Vargas laughed. She's the whole point. Kill her, and the bond dies with her. Kill the bond, and you're mine to finish. He gestured to his wolves. Surround them. No one leaves this temple alive. The wolves closed in. I grabbed Lushenolf's arm. The ritual, can we do it now? Not while we're fighting. It requires focused time. Then I'll buy you time. I shifted before he could stop me, throwing myself at the nearest wolf. We collided in a tangle of fur and fangs. I was smaller, weaker, but desperation made me vicious. The altar, I sent through the bond. Start the ritual. Lupella, no. Do it. I felt his hesitation, then his resignation. The bond hummed as he moved toward the altar. I fought like a demon. Claws raked my side. Teeth found my shoulder. I bled into the snow, but I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Every second I bought was another second for Lushenolf, too. Pain exploded through my back leg. I went down, a wolf's jaws locked around the bone. I screamed, and the bond ignited. Golden light exploded from the altar. Lushenolf stood at its center, his arms raised, blood dripping from his palms onto the ancient stone. The symbols carved into the altar blazed to life, spreading outward in concentric circles. No! Vargas roared, but it was too late. The ritual had begun. Power surged through the bond, a riptide of ancient magic that connected me to Lushenolf, to the temple, to the moon goddess herself. I felt his soul brush against mine, felt the curse writhing and screaming as the bond began to strangle it. Come to me! Lushenolf's voice echoed through my mind. Lupella, come to me now. I tore free from the wolf holding me and ran. Vargas tried to intercept, but vines erupted from the earth, the forest itself responding to the ritual. They wrapped around him, holding him fast. I leaped onto the altar beside Lushenolf. He caught me, his blood-slicked hands finding mine. Last chance, he gasped. Once we do this. I know. I pressed our foreheads together. I choose you. I choose us. I choose. Our lips met, and the world shattered. The bond completed in a rush of gold and starlight and ancient power. I felt Lushenolf's soul merge with mine, felt his strength become my strength, his pain become my pain. The curse screamed as the bond crushed it, burning it away like morning mist. Above us, the blood moon broke free from the clouds. Crimson light bathed the temple. And Lushenolf changed. Not into a wolf. Into something beyond. Divine. He grew larger, his markings blazing like the sun, wings of golden light erupting from his shoulders. The Alpha of legend. The high moon's chosen. He raised one hand. The sky answered. Lightning crashed down in a circle around the temple, obliterating Vargas's wolves in a storm of divine wrath. They scattered, howling, breaking. Vargas himself was thrown backward, his body smoking. You will not touch her. Lushenolf's voice was thunder. Vargas tried to rise. Failed. Blood leaked from his mouth as he stared up at us in horror. This isn't over, he gasped. Yes, I said quietly. It is. Lushenolf's power crashed down like a hammer. When the light faded, Vargas was gone. Ash on the wind. Silence fell. Slowly, Lushenolf's divine form receded. The wings faded. The light dimmed. He collapsed against me, and we both sank to the altar, shaking. Is it done? I whispered. He touched my shoulder, where the rejection mark had been. In its place, a new mark blazed, golden and intricate. The high moon Luna sigil. It's done, he breathed. I looked down at my own hands. The same sigils that marked his skin now marked mine, glowing faintly in the moonlight. We were bonded. Truly. Completely. Forever. The moon dimmed, and I fell against him, not knowing if I'd saved us both or doomed us to something worse. But his arms were around me, and for the first time in 2 years I wasn't alone. Chapter 9. The Luna of the High Moon. I woke to dawn. Soft light filtered through the pine canopy, turning the frost to diamonds. My body ached. Every muscle, every bone, but underneath the pain was something else. Completion. The bond hummed steadily in my chest, warm and certain. No longer a wild thing, but a part of me as essential as breathing. Lapella! I turned my head. Lushenolf knelt beside me on the altar, his hand cradling my face. The marks on his skin were still visible but softer now, like silver scars. His eyes, those devastating golden eyes, were clear and focused and full of something that made my breath catch. "You're alive," I whispered. "We're alive." He helped me sit up slowly. "The curse is gone, burned away when the bond sealed." I touched my shoulder, feeling the Luna mark beneath my torn tunic. "And this? Your birthright." He traced the symbol with gentle fingers. "You're Luna of the High Moon Pack now. My mate. My equal." His voice softened. "My savior." Tears burned my eyes. "I don't know how to be a Luna. I was exiled, rejected." "You were hidden," he corrected. "Hidden because your power would have changed everything. Sheena and Vargas knew that. They feared you." He tilted my chin up. "But fear doesn't get to win. Not anymore." A sound made us both turn. Wolves emerged from the trees. I tensed, but Lushenolf's hand on my arm steadied me. "Wait!" The wolves weren't attacking. They were kneeling. One by one, they bowed their heads to the ground, necks exposed in submission. "What?" I breathed. "They feel it," Lushenolf said quietly. "The bond. The power. You're Luna now, and they recognize it." An older wolf shifted to human form, gray-haired, weathered, with kind eyes. "Forgive us, Luna," he said hoarsely. We were misled. Vargas told us the Alpha had gone rogue, that he'd abandoned the pack. We didn't know. "Peace," Lushenolf said, his voice carrying the weight of command. "Vargas is dead. The lies end now." The old wolf's eyes widened. "Then you're truly back?" "The pack. We'll rebuild," Lushenolf finished. "Under new leadership, mine and hers." The wolves looked at me, really looked, and I saw recognition dawn. Not derision, not dismissal. Respect. "Luna," they murmured, one after another. Something cracked open in my chest. All the years of rejection, of exile, of believing I was worthless, shattered. I was Luna, not because someone allowed it, because the moon goddess herself had written it in the stars. Over the next hours, wolves continued to arrive. Word spread fast. The curse was broken, the false beta was dead, the true alpha had returned. And he brought his mate. Jarek appeared at midday, her blind eyes twinkling. "Well," she said, "you chose the right path after all." "You said you'd seen every possible future," I said. "Did you know we'd succeed?" "I knew you had the strength." She touched my cheek. "I just wasn't sure you'd believe it." She left a gift, a silver circlet woven with moonflowers, the traditional crown of a high moon Luna. "For the ceremony," she said, and vanished before I could ask what ceremony. As the sun set, Lushenolf led me to a clearing overlooking the valley. Below, I could see wolves gathering, hundreds of them, the entire northern pack. "They're here for you," he said. "For us," I corrected. He smiled, soft and real and devastating. "For us." The ceremony was ancient and simple. Lushenolf marked my forehead with sacred ash, speaking the old words in a language that predated modern wolves. I repeated them, my voice steady despite my trembling hands. When he placed the circlet on my head, the crowd howled. Not in aggression, in celebration. I was Luna. The rejected Omega was Luna of the most powerful pack in the territories. That night, Lushenolf and I stood on the cliffside, watching the moon rise. Full and silver and perfect. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. "Now!" He pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me. Now we rebuild. We heal. We lead. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Together. I'm scared, I admitted. What if I'm not strong enough? What if? You saved me, he interrupted. You stood against Vargas, completed a bond that should have killed you, and claimed a power you didn't even know you had. He turned me to face him. You are the strongest wolf I've ever known. I was rejected, I whispered. No. He cupped my face. You were tested, forged, prepared. His eyes blazed. And now you're exactly where you were always meant to be. I kissed him then, slow and deep and full of promise. When we broke apart, I looked out over the pack below. My pack. Wolves who'd once would have scorned me now stood ready to follow. Because I wasn't the rejected Omega anymore. I was Lapella Moon's car, Luna of the High Moon. And I would never be broken again. Once, I was the rejected Omega, I said softly, the words carrying on the wind. Lushanov smiled, his hand finding mine. And now, I turned to face the moon, the circlet gleaming on my brow, the mate bond burning bright and true in my chest. Now, I said, I am the howl that commands the dawn. Wah. Thank you for letting me bring Lapella and Lushanov's story to life. I hope it resonates with the heart and heat you were looking for.